America, on average, at least 124,000 people are shot, and 35,000 of them end up dying from gunshot wounds. This is a significant amount of people that are affected by or suffer the worst fate of all from firearms, death. From my lifetime, and in recent times, I have seen many mass shootings and deaths from guns. From not only my home state, but in America as a whole. This has raised the question of whether or not we should allow guns in society and how we should handle them. Through extensive research, I am here to tell you and explain to you why implementing stronger gun control regulations can help lower the amount of deaths in the U.S. by not only lowering homicide rates as well as suicide rates. Now, one of the main causes of deaths from guns is homicides. This is when one deliberately intends to commit murder upon another person. Just from the year 1999 to 2013, the amount of homicides was 174,000 people. This is about 37.7% of all deaths from total gun deaths. Guns were also the leading cause of death by homicide, so naturally people tend to choose guns to commit murder over knives or other physical hands. How we could lower the amount of suicides is by implementing federal universal background checks, which could reduce deaths by projected 56.9%. So basically over half of the percentage we could lower deaths through implementing stronger background checks. And the background checks for ammunition purchases could also reduce deaths by projected 80.7%. So making it harder for them to get ammunition will make it harder for them to commit mass murders with less bullets. Now, while homicides are to blame for the amount of deaths by firearms, another big factor is suicides. Suicides bring a tremendous amount of death, and firearms are a big part of that. The amount of deaths from firearm suicides between 1999 and 2013 was around 270,000 people. Firearm suicides account for 52% of all suicides, so over half the amount of people that commit suicide committed through the use of a firearm. Firearm-related suicides accounted for 61% of all gun deaths in the U.S. between 2000 and 2010. How we can lower the amount of suicides is shown through a study done in 2014. When gun ownership in the U.S. went down, overall suicide rates went down with it. In Indiana and Connecticut, after the red flag laws were made to remove guns from people who may pose a threat, gun suicides decreased by 7.5% and 13.7%. So even though that may seem like a small amount, that's still a large percentage considering thousands of people commit suicide. Now, some people feel that we need guns, and stronger background checks aren't the answer, but that simply isn't the case. Guns are actually rarely used in self-defense. Of the 29,618,300 violent crimes committed between 2007 and 2011, only 0.79% of victims actually use a firearm to protect themselves. So that means not even 1% of people that have a gun actually use it to protect themselves. In 2010, there were only 235 cases where justifiable suicides were made when a citizen used a firearm to protect themselves. And studies have also shown that places where more guns are allowed actually have a higher death rate. Found in 2013, arguments that resulted in brawls or when people have disputes between each other, it resulted in 1,962 gun deaths. American civilians also are unlikely to stop crimes, as shown through the years 1982 to 2012. No armed civilian ever stopped a shooting. From these points, you can see that simply lowering the amount of firearms can help reduce the amount of deaths, as people don't use them for the correct reasons at a large percent of the time. So people will argue basically saying, oh, we need guns to protect ourselves, but really, as I showed you the statistics, you really don't see that much cases of people actually protecting themselves. As you can see, increasing the amount of gun control regulations will help reduce the amount of homicides and suicides, as well as the number of guns out there, because people don't tend to use them for the right purposes they were made for. As I leave you all today, I want you to think about the statistics and ideals I explained today and decide on whether or not you believe gun control will help you in your lives, but also for America. As former governor of New York, Eliot Spitzer, once said, yes, people pull the trigger, but guns are the instrument of death. Thank you all for your time.